I bought every single Maison Margiela fragrance so you don't have to. As samples. What, do you think I was going to buy them as full bottles? What do you think I'm made of, money? Who do you think I am, Andrew Tate? A lot of people don't realize that Maison Margiela are not a niche fragrance house. And by a lot of people, I mean myself. I used to think that they were a niche fragrance house, but they're actually a fashion designer. They make their own clothing. They primarily have a line in fragrances called the Replica line. The idea behind these fragrances is that they are replicating a certain situation or scenario in one's life, which is kind of cool. It sounds like that concept should produce natural perfumery because it's trying to make natural scenarios that one experiences. Overall, I think the brand is okay. I knew about the famous fragrances that everyone in the community knows, which are going to be Under the Lemon Tree, Jazz Club by the Fireplace. However, I always felt that I didn't give the rest of their line a chance, and probably most of you watching also haven't tried the rest of their fragrances. So I bought their Discovery set, which has most of their main fragrances. I think some of them that used to be there got removed from that Discovery set. At the Barbers, I actually had to buy from a different sample website. I think it may be discontinued, but I'll review it anyways as I have it. I thought at the time that I'd bought every single fragrance that they have, but I think I've missed a few, such as When the Rain Stops and Flower Market. But we'll just pretend they don't exist, guys, for the sake of this video. So let's get started. I'm going to give each one of these a rating out of 10, and then at the end of the video, I'm going to pick my one winner that I would personally buy a full bottle of. Replica Springtime in a Park. Bear in mind, guys, take these reviews with a grain of salt because there's been so many that I've had to test over the last few weeks. I've worn most of these once or twice, maybe a few more times than that. So it's more of an overview rather than a really in-depth review, but it should still be fun anyways. Springtime in a Park, I need to spray it on to remind myself of the scent profile. Scents are usually more powerful in creating the memory of themselves when you smell them rather than trying to logically go through it, if you know what I mean. Yeah, so this is very soapy. Surprising, actually. The opening is very soapy. I remember this one. I didn't think it really represented what it was trying to represent. It has a sort of woodiness to it, which might be associated with a springtime park. It's very synthetic. It has okay performance, maybe 4 to 6 hours. So I would give this maybe a 6 out of 10. I personally wouldn't buy this, and it smells a little bit too feminine for me as well. Maison Margiela Replica Beach Walk. Yeah, this one is sweet. It's sort of like a sweet, mineralic, almost like an ambergris kind of fragrance. If you want to be reminded of the beach, this will do it. It has, again, more of a feminine vibe to it. I think most of these are unisex, leaning a little bit more to the feminine side, Maison Margiela. This is a nice fragrance though. It's well blended. It's still a little bit synthetic, disappointingly synthetic, but it has a nice scent to it. I do like it. I think if you want a sort of feel-good fragrance, you want to be transported, this is not bad. I'll give this a 7 out of 10. The performance could also be better. Maison Margiela Replica Coffee Break. Now this one I do not need to respray on myself. This one is distinct. I remember it clearly. It is not a fragrance I would recommend if you want a super realistic coffee break sort of picture in your head. It does have a hint of coffee. This is more of a lavender fragrance. It's sort of like a sweet, soapy coffee, which is interesting. It does stand out. It has decent performance, pretty good performance, perfectly unisex. It can be a little bit challenging and polarizing, so I think it's very suitable to be in this Discovery set. You need to try this before you buy it. I personally wouldn't buy this, but I think some people might love this fragrance. I would personally give it an 8 out of 10, but I think there are definitely safer and more predictable coffee fragrances out there. Replica Sailing Day. You're out on a boat, you love the ocean, you want those aquatic, ozonic notes from a named fragrance like this. Now, this is a nice fragrance. I really love the opening. I think if you're a man, you're going to appreciate this fragrance the most. It's fresh, aquatic. It sort of has like an Acqua di Gio vibe, not a clone at all, but then it's done in a replica Maison Margiela style to it. It has a nice mixture of naturals with synthetics. I think it's very well blended. It's okay performance. I get about 6 hours of this. I think this is probably the daily fragrance, daytime fragrance I would wear the most from this line. I'm a fan of it. I give this an 8 out of 10. This is very handsome, but probably still unisex overall. Maison Margiela Autumn Vibes. Now, this is not a fragrance a lot of people rate it highly because it's not what they expect. I didn't necessarily expect anything with this in particular. A lot of people wanted something like a pumpkin spice latte vibe, something cozy. This is not necessarily a cozy fragrance. This is more of an outdoors in the woods with all the trees with their leaves falling around you. It's that kind of awesome vibe. I think it does achieve its name. This is a very woody fragrance. It's a very long-lasting fragrance. It's got great performance. It's perfectly unisex. I think this is the kind of fragrance if you want to experience art in perfumery, not necessarily if you want to go for a sexy fragrance. I think if you do like woody fragrances, you might find this sexy. I just think it's quite creative. I think it's nice. I think it's unfairly criticized. I give this an 8 out of 10. Maison Margiela Replica Bubble Bath. I do not like this fragrance. You think when you're wearing something like this, you think of being, yes, in a bath, I suppose, something soapy, clean. And this is that. It does achieve the scenario it wants to go for. It is very synthetic, however. It's very aquatic, ozonic, a little bit floral. It's got these linen-like materials in there. It smells very clean, linen, very, yeah, soapy and a little bit screechy for my liking. But people did compliment me with this. I think it's one of those fragrances you as the wearer might not enjoy it the most, but people around you will appreciate it. Decent performance, 6 to 8 hours. I give this maybe 6.5, maybe, all right, 7 out of 10, let's be generous. Maison Margiela by the Fireplace. Now this, if you want to attract someone with a loud, interesting fragrance, you go for this. This is sexy. It's sex in a bottle, I think, in my opinion. It smells like Stronger With You. A lot of people smell Stronger With You, but it made it more niche, although this is still a designer brand. This sort of smells like a niche design, niche Stronger With You. It is very much that scenario. They do it very well here. This is why it's one of their more popular fragrances. Very smoky, sort of like you're roasting marshmallows by a fireplace, by a big bonfire, but it's still very sweet. It's a very sweet fragrance with fantastic performance. Loud, head turner, attention grabbing, great longevity. I give this 8.5 out of 10 because it's not personally my style. You know what, I'll give it a 9 out of 10. I'll give it a 9 out of 10, all right? It's not my style, but it will be loved by many people, and it is loved by many people. Maison Margiela's Under the Lemon Tree. This is nice in the opening. I think the opening is the best bit here. If you do want that realistic springtime, you know, the flowers have just bloomed, you buy a fresh lemon tree, you want a nice realistic citrus note in the opening, it just does this well, but then it deteriorates, in my opinion, in the dry down, becomes very synthetic, very linen-like, again, similar to Bubble Bath. The performance is okay, 6 hours. I just think it's not very sexy and it's a little bit clumsily made, in my opinion. This is a little bit forgettable, but the opening is fantastic. I give this a 7 out of 10. Maison Margiela Lazy Sunday Morning. This is a nice fragrance, very fresh, very laid back, as the name suggests. It is very much a dumb reach. If you really want an easy fragrance to grab and go, not the best performance, maybe 6 hours, but it's still a nicely done fragrance. It is synthetic, but it's just very well composed. It has a lot of nice musks, fresh ozonic notes in here. It is very smoothly blended. It doesn't feel like any one note just attacks you. It's not like Coffee Break where there's a lot of lavender or coffee in there. This is nice for a man to wear as well. It's perfectly unisex. It is not a mind-blowing fragrance, but it's very nice, very pleasant. I'll give this a 7.5 out of 10. Maison Margiela's At the Barbers. Again, I'm not sure if this fragrance is discontinued. If someone can let us know in the comments, that'd be great. However, I wore this fragrance a lot, actually, in this sample tryout. It is my style. It's very much spot on with the scenario, very much a fougere. You're at the barber. I obviously missed that experience myself, so, you know, it's nice to have a fragrance for that. It is very sharp, clean, traditional, you know, manly man's fragrance back in the day. Lavender for sure. It is just pure fougere. It doesn't really deviate, and for that reason, it's not going to have the most character. It's high quality, well blended, but it's not a fougere with a twist like Beau de Jour by Tom Ford has that sweet amber that makes it stand out. Or, of course, there's Le Mal, which is a sweet barbershop fragrance with a lot of spices in there that makes it stand out with the mint as well. This is just very clean, linear, simple. The performance is disappointing, maybe 4 to 6 hours, and I feel that Masculine Pluriel by MFK is the niche version of this fragrance. I feel like that is the superior fragrance to go for. This is not bad, but It's slightly forgettable. It smells a tiny bit outdated. It's a nice concept though. I do appreciate it. Overall, I'll give this a 7 out of 10. Maison Margiela's Matcha Meditation. You remember fragrances like Gucci Pour Homme 2, which is legendary in the community, had a very prominent green tea note. So this is sort of similar. It has a matcha note, but it's a lot sweeter. If you like matcha, it's a very much acquired taste. If you like sweet fragrances with poor performance, 4 to 6 hours, then you know you can go for it if you want to recreate the discontinued Gucci Pour Homme 2 a little bit. They're a little bit similar. I think overall it's an unremarkable fragrance. It's maybe, yeah, it's perfectly unisex still, but overall I'll give it a 6 out of 10. Maison Margiela Music Festival. Now, when you think of music festivals, what do you think of? When I was gonna go smell this, I had a different scent profile in mind, but as soon as you sniff this, even though I've never been there myself, I think of Woodstock from back in the 60s. I feel like they're definitely trying to replicate Woodstock. The first note that hits you, I didn't see the fragrance note breakdown, but you can just tell there's a cannabis note in here. It's sweet. It's definitely had an incense note, which I think is correct. So yeah, it was like a sweet cannabis and incense. Very interesting fragrance, creative. I love the creativity here. Performance is okay, 4 to 6 hours. I think if you want to be transported to that kind of vibe, you like that hippie era, you want to see some creative perfumery, you will like this. Very much unisex, very nice, accessible perfumery. I give this maybe a 7.5 out of 10. Maison Margiela's Whispers in the Library. This name, I thought this would have a sort of a book, you know when you open a book and you can smell the fresh pages. I thought they were going to recreate that smell, which would have been really cool. And I thought Whispers in the Library suggests a librarian telling you off, telling you to be quiet, as a lot of us have experienced, annoyingly. But this fragrance actually ends up being sort of seductive whispers. This is a very seductive fragrance. Very nicely blended, sweet, woody fragrance. I think a lot of sandalwood in here. If you want a date night fragrance, that is not the usual jazz club or by the fireplace from this brand. This is not bad. It's limited in its performance as well, but it's you know, I think it's a good fragrance. One of the more solid offerings from the house. I give it an 8 out of 10. And finally, Maison Margiela's Jazz Club. I saved the best for last. Yes, I do think this is the best fragrance that I have in the house. I'll just say it. I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. It is a sexy, boozy, fresh, spicy fragrance that's just super nicely balanced. That has limited performance still, unfortunately. It's 6 hours with a soft projection. It's not going to be a head turner like By the Fireplace, but it is a fragrance that smells incredibly sexy. If people discover this on you, this will definitely get you positive attention. I wish the performance was better. This is only drawback. I would personally buy a full bottle of this. This is my winner of this video. Jazz Club. They're probably one of the most popular, and for good reason. Really, really sexy fragrance, an easy, boozy fragrance to go for, especially now that CH Men Privé is unfortunately discontinued. So, what do you guys think? Did this video help you to decide if you wanted to try out any of the Maison Margiela fragrances? I think overall the brand has a cool idea behind it with the Replicant line. I think it's great that they have the Discovery set here. I'm glad I bought it. I got to experience everything very easily. Good on them for having this available. I do think the brand is a little bit too forgettable in all of their releases. I think they need to have more character and really go extreme with some of these scenarios, like maybe like they did with At the Barbers, but just, you know, add more character to these fragrances. They're too unisex. I kind of don't really know who these are aimed for. I think women would probably prefer Maison Margiela than guys would. It's not a bad brand. Overall, I give it maybe a 7 out of 10. It's got some quality here, but has a lot of room for improvement. Some of their fragrance releases are standouts as well. Make sure to check out our other videos, guys. I did a Chanel Allure Homme buying guide for that entire line. That might be worth checking out, and we'll see you in the next one, guys. Bye.